guys, what's up? It's Ella, welcome back to my channel, and today I have finally put together a list of the top 10 best roller coasters I've been on. In the past, I didn't really rank the roller coasters I've ridden because I had a hard time distinguishing between the difference of my favorite roller coasters versus the ones that I think are the best rides, so I didn't really have a ranking before making this video. But I did want to participate in CoasterBot's Vote Coasters project this year, which does ask participants to rank all the coasters that they've been on, so that's how I ended up creating this list. I will add a link to the Vote Coasters project in case you want to check that out. Before we get started, I just want to preface that this is my own personal list, and I've only included rides that I have ridden in this ranking, so if you're wondering why rides like Fury 325 or El Toro are not on this list, it's probably because I haven't been on them yet. Again, these are just my own opinions, so please remain respectful of this list and any other coaster rankings lists you might encounter. Without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at the number 10 spot is Orion at Kings Island. This B&M Giga Coaster is my favorite Giga Coaster that I've been on so far. For reference, I've been on this one, Leviathan, and Millennium Force, but Orion takes the cake of my favorite Giga Coaster. Orion gets my number 10 spot because I feel like I haven't had any rides on it that have really disappointed me. I've ridden this in different times of day, different seasons, in different rows, and every time I feel like the elements do exactly what they're supposed to do. Orion doesn't have the greatest theme in the world, but I do appreciate that Cedar Fair is starting to put more effort into theming their rides, and Orion is a great example of that. Other than that, this ride is just gorgeous. The blue and silver color combination really make a great statement in the skyline, and B&M coasters are just beautiful in general, and Orion is no exception to that. If I had to pick a favorite row on Orion, it would probably be the front seat because you get to feel all of that speed in your face. And my favorite element on this ride is probably that speed hill. But overall, it is a pretty great ride, and I'm excited to get more rides on it in the future. Coming in at my number 9 spot is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. Now, there's a lot of great things about this ride. In addition to a fantastic layout and tons of airtime, this ride has two qualities that really make it an amazing ride for me, which are the setting and the restraints. Phantom's Revenge has that iconic drop into the valley going underneath Thunderbolt, and with those very minimal restraints, you feel every bit of airtime on this ride. And to make this ride even better, in 2022 it is receiving a paint job in which it will go from its classic green to a new purple color, and I'm so excited for this. There are so few purple coasters out there. I know there's a handful, but there's not a lot of them, and I'm really excited to see Phantom's Revenge getting added to the list of purple coasters. Similar to why I like Orion, something I really like about Phantom's Revenge is that I feel like every single element does what it's supposed to, and you get airtime where you're supposed to get airtime, there's laterals where there's supposed to be laterals, and no element on this ride is really wasted. Again, the restraints of the ride also really contribute to why this ride is so good. The restraints are both comfortable and very freeing, and you do get a ton of airtime on this ride, which is part of what makes it so successful. In the number 8 spot is Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Now, what makes this such a good ride for me is that I've never had a bad ride on it. No matter what seat I sit in, no matter what the temperature or the weather is like, no matter what time of day it is, I've never had a bad ride on Mystic Timbers, and that's what makes me respect this ride so much. Mystic Timbers has fantastic pacing, and I feel like the ride really never lets up until you hit that final brake run. Like many other rides at Kings Island, Mystic Timbers has a fantastic setting. Although the station and the first lift hill are right off the main midway, once you get into the actual course of the ride, you're out in the woods and you really feel like you don't know where you're going, which adds to the thrill of the ride, especially at night. Mystic Timbers has fantastic night rides. I mean, again, like most things at Kings Island have fantastic night rides, but Mystic Timbers, especially in that wooded setting. And you'll probably notice this being a trend on this list, but like the other rides I've mentioned before, all of the elements on Mystic Timbers do what they're supposed to do, which proves that it is a really good ride. There's really no dead spots unless you're counting the shed. I know a lot of people have criticized the shed, but I'd rather wait in a shed with a screen than on a boring brake run. And if anything, the shed provides an opportunity for us enthusiasts to make a lot of jokes about it, so maybe we shouldn't be complaining about it. Taking my number 7 spot is Goliath at Six Flags Great America. Now, Great America is my home park, so I've ridden Goliath dozens and dozens of times, but every time I get off of this, I just remember how good this ride is. Now, it is a pretty short ride, which is why I haven't put it any higher on this list, but again, all of the elements do exactly what they're supposed to do. There's a lot of fantastic elements on this ride, but I feel like one that gets overlooked a little bit with all those great inversions is Goliath's first drop. This drop is so intense, especially in the back. And this drop really feels like you're going to be falling forever. There's so much speed and it's so steep that it's just such a fantastic first drop on a coaster. Now, being a roller coaster by Rocky Mountain Construction, a lot of people expect Goliath to have a lot of airtime, but this is not exactly what this ride is completely about. You do get airtime on that first drop and the few airtime hills on the ride, but Goliath has hang time, which is something that not a lot of RMCs have. With the back-to-back elements of a dive loop going right into that stall, there is just so much hang time right in a row, and it provides some of the coolest views of the park. And because Goliath uses RMC's topper track, this is a true wooden coaster, and it still holds the record for the tallest drop on a wooden coaster, and the fastest wooden coaster now that Lightning Rod has been converted. Goliath may be a shorter ride, but trust me, every inch of track is used very wisely. Taking the number 6 spot is Maverick at Cedar Point. This is another ride that I've gotten a lot of rides on, and it's never left me disappointed. No matter what seat I'm sitting in, Maverick will always provide an amazing ride. Maverick is such a well-rounded ride. You have 2 launches, a steep drop, inversions, airtime, positive and negative forces. There is nothing that this ride is missing. Well, except the Heartline roll and the working fountains, but even without those, Maverick is still a fantastic ride. And with the lake right behind it, Maverick has a beautiful setting. And if you ride this ride around sunset, you are going to get some beautiful, absolutely amazing views. Every time after I get off Maverick, I'm always left with a really good feeling afterwards. Maverick is also a very consistent ride. Well, not operationally, it does have a lot of downtime, but every time I ride Maverick, I am always guaranteed a good experience. We have officially reached my top 5 roller coasters, and at the number 5 spot is Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. Man, where do I even start with this ride? I was lucky enough to ride the original Hades back when I was about 10 years old, and I got to ride Hades 360 for the first time in 2021, and wow, I forgot how good this ride is. This ride used to scare me so much when I was a kid, but riding it now, when I can think about roller coasters a bit more critically, this is just such a fantastic ride. This ride starts off with a bang right with the drop out of the station and into a fantastic pre-lift section before ascending that giant lift hill. The highlight of this ride for me are the underground tunnels. You go underground twice in this ride underneath the parking lot, and even in daylight it is pitch black in there. You cannot even see your hand in front of you. You can't see where you're going at all, and then you pop back out into daylight right into a corkscrew, and that is just such a fantastic transition of elements. Hades 360 has a beautiful combination of fantastic pacing and a really long ride time. This ride is so intense and it's so unique, and the whole time you're in those Timberliner trains, and they're so comfortable, and I just cannot talk enough about how great this ride is. I'm so happy I was able to get back up to Mount Olympus in 2021 to get another ride on this fantastic coaster, and you can believe it that I will be back to ride this sometime soon. Coming in at my number 4 spot is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. I got my first rides on this coaster in 2021, so after the hybrid conversion when it got more iBox track than topper track, so I did never get to ride it in its original form. Now, I've heard that it used to go a lot faster than it does now, and I definitely expected it to go a little faster on my first rides. But even at a slower pace, you can't deny that this layout is phenomenal. Being built up on a mountain, Lightning Rod has its setting going for it the whole time and creates for some pretty good moments like that quad down at the end. RMC really took advantage of the terrain with this ride, and because that first hill goes up and drops over the mountain, you can't really see much of the layout from the ground, so when you're going up to this ride, the whole layout is pretty much a mystery except for the very beginning and the very end. Lightning Rod is so re-rideable too. On our trip to Dollywood, we rode this thing over and over so many times in a row, and we had a great time every single time. Well, except when we got hit with a map, but if you want to hear more about that, watch our Dollywood vlog. There's no bad seat on Lightning Rod, but I think this ride really does shine in the back seat. I do wish I got to experience Lightning Rod at its peak potential before they slowed down the launch, but even as it stands now, it's still a fantastic ride. In my number 3 spot, I have Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. Now, I already know a lot of you are probably questioning why I put Storm Chaser above Lightning Rod, and here's why. While Lightning Rod left me wanting more and expecting more from it, Storm Chaser exceeded my expectations. There is no bad seat on Storm Chaser, and yeah, this ride definitely shines in the back, but no matter where I'm sitting in this train, I get so much airtime out of my seat that it does leave me like fearing death a little bit, which is not a feeling that I had when I came off of Lightning Rod. Lightning Rod definitely has good airtime, but not a single moment on Lightning Rod did I think had more intense airtime than Storm Chaser. Storm Chaser doesn't need height, speed, or even a fantastic setting to make it as good of a ride as it is. It really shines on its own. And this ride always leaves me feeling so impressed. Maybe it's a little bit of a hot take ranking it this high, but Storm Chaser continues to blow me away. Pun intended. In my number 2 spot is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Okay, this ride is pretty much flawless. Every element does exactly what it's supposed to do, and this ride really doesn't let up. Yeah, it does have that mid-course, but it doesn't slow you down that much. Now, I'm definitely an airtime lover, which is part of why I rank this ride so highly, because I love airtime, and there is just so much of it on Steel Vengeance. This ride is also super long. You feel like it's almost never going to end, and you really don't want it to, because it's just so good. This is another one of those rides where there's really no bad seat on the ride. No matter where you sit, you will get airtime and you will get thrown out of your seat. If you want it to be the most intense, again, head to the back of the train, but no matter where you sit, you are going to feel the forces of this ride. This ride does focus more on negative Gs. There's really not a lot of moments of positive Gs or laterals, so if you love airtime, this will totally be your cup of tea, but it does lack that variety of forces. But the forces that this ride does have are so good that you probably won't be like, this doesn't have a lot of positive Gs when you're riding it. Sometimes it does feel like it is a lot of the same thing because so much of the ride focuses on airtime, but they do mix it up with different types of airtime, like of that wave turn you get a lot of sideways airtime. There's also some inversions on this ride to help break up all of that airtime. And this is another ride that I've pretty much never had a bad experience on or a bad ride on, which is why it's getting that number 2 spot. Taking the number 1 spot, the best roller coaster that I have ever been on is Adventure Express at Kings Island. Literally the best roller coaster in the entire world. I mean, come on, what other roller coaster has its own dance move? Okay, just kidding, it's the Voyage at Holiday World. Now, I've had a lot of debates with myself if the Voyage or Steel Vengeance is the better ride, and for me, the deciding factor was that I have had trimless night rides on both of these rides. I've experienced these rides in their peak form, and I have to say, the Voyage is just a better trimless night ride than Steel Vengeance. Along with that, the Voyage also has an impeccable setting that Steel Vengeance just cannot compete with. It's a terrain coaster, so it's making use of the hillside that it sits on, and it goes back into the woods similar to Mystic Timbers, so you don't know where you are, where you're going, or when you'll come back. This is another ride that is perfect in every single seat, and it has such a good variety of elements. There's airtime, there's laterals, there's positive and negative forces. The Voyage has this amazing juxtaposition of the big airtime hills that you see at the front of the ride, and then all of those low to the ground moments that you get coming back. The Voyage also utilizes tunnels, which really add to the experience as well, especially at night. It is pitch black in those tunnels. The Voyage is also an incredibly long ride, and like Steel Vengeance, you don't know when it's going to end, and it feels like it's going to last forever, which is a good thing because this ride is so awesome. However, Steel Vengeance can feel repetitive in a few spots where it just feels like it's airtime hill, and there's all airtime hills right in a row. I feel like the Voyage has a better variety of elements that help break up its long length. In the beginning of the ride, you get all those big floater airtime hills, and then you go into the low to the ground spaghetti bowl section, which is a mix of airtime and banked turns, and then coming back you have another mix of banked turns, airtime hills, and then you get that big sweeping turnaround at the end. You have the station flyby, and it is just amazing element after element, and this ride does not let up. When I come off of this ride, I am left with such an amazing feeling, literally like you feel like you've gone on a voyage out into the woods and you come back, and it is just such a fantastic ride. I don't know what else to say except this ride is just so amazing. The Voyage also looks super intimidating from the ground. It is just a massive first hill, and you can't really see a lot of the back half of the ride in that spaghetti bowl section, so it just makes it even more intimidating for a first-time rider. And I could just go on and on and on about how much I love this ride, but we're already at about 15 minutes, and this is a long enough video as it is, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments. Please be respectful, as everyone has their own opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you liked this video, and please subscribe to stick around for future content. I would really appreciate your support for the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again on a future video.